Strap in and get ready. This is the Wild Will Throwdown. We're your all-access pass to the world of short track racing, covering everything from regional results to national highlights. Each episode, we dive into upcoming schedules and bring you exclusive interviews with special guests from the heart of the motorsports industry. Now, here is your host, Wild Will Greenwell.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wild Will Throwdown podcast, season number 5 with Indy Warrior Partnership in 2026. I am your host, Will Greenwell, and on the hotline now, the two co-hosts of the show, Mr. Hawk Harold Adams and Young Money Dalton Connor. Gentlemen, welcome back for another week. Hawk Harold Adams, we'll start with you. You got to visit the Indianapolis Speedrome. We're going to jump into the recap here momentarily, but another weekend of racing in the books, Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, it was good to get back up to Indy, to the Speedrome, to see some outlaw figure eight racing, one of the big premier events, of course, the 90-minute Spring Shootout. So, and it did not disappoint. And, you know, with all the rain we've had all week and everything, it was good to have a dry day that day for the races.
Yeah, no doubt. And Dalton Connor, of course, everyone knows who watched it on speedrome.tv or paid attention to social media or was actually in there in person at the Indianapolis Speedrome. You took a bump in the intersection, hit a stalled car, man, and I know you had a little bit of a whiplash, but how you doing this week?
Yeah, not too bad. I wish I could have that lap back. I know that. It sucks because I won't be in a figure eight car for a month or so. I don't even know when my next race is going to be in that thing. So I need some redemption, but taking this upcoming weekend off just to recoup, get our cars back in check, and yeah, being modified at Salem. So ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to go on and jump into it before we get to the topic of the week chosen by Hawk Harold Adams this week. We're going to recap the Spring Shootout at the Indianapolis Speedrome. Of course, man, the marksman Mark Tunney cannot be stopped. We'll talk about that in a second. But Harold Adams, you were there in person as a spectator. How would you describe that race on Saturday night?
Well, it kind of started out a little slow. There was a lot of cautions early on. I mean, of course, they don't like to stop the races up there unless you have to. But there was a lot of things happening early, so it kind of took a while to kind of get things rolling. But once they got going, you know, the action was hot and heavy as always. A lot of intersection action. A lot of cars stayed out on the track. You know, and you talk about, you know, Mark Tunney, you know, how tough he is. I mean, he's just the man to beat right now. And, of course, Jesse went into that race, you know, winning 2 in a row. And he was there at the end but didn't have enough. But, you know, Austin Tunney, you know, maybe people kind of forgot about him, you know, because
Sure.
he's been down and out. And, you know, he came along and said, hey, don't forget about me. He put a lot of pressure on Mark down the stretch there, and I made it interesting. But you know, Mark Tunney was the man again, you know. And then of course we had, like you said, Dalton run into a stalled car. You know, I don't know why you didn't go around him, but we'll talk about that later. Maybe Dalton, what you got about that?
Oh, I just ran out of talent. There ain't nothing else to it.
Well, it was a little bit later in the race. Maybe you lost a little focus. Does that kind of come into it a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, it's easy to do, especially in those longer races. I mean, even in the shorter races, it's easy to do. Just get complacent and just not pay that good of attention, which, I mean, I'll recap kind of what I saw from my view from the cockpit. So I see the 51 parked in the crossover as I'm coming off of 4. But as I'm coming off of 4, I see his car bump forward. So in my mind, I'm already thinking like, okay, he'll be cleared out. They're not saying anything on the receiver. He's going to be cleared out. I don't have to worry about him next time by. So I go through 1 and 2, and I come up on the 27, Christopher Gray, and I'm just following him through the X off of 2, looking left, trying to find a hole through the crossover. And at the last moment, out of my peripheral vision, I see Chris Gray just turn hard right, and as I'm turning my head, I'm already parking it into Lee Schwartz's back bumper. So, I mean, it's my fault, and another rookie mistake on my part. So I just need to clean that stuff up a bit.
You know, that's one thing I was talking about watching the broadcast at home, and it was a rare weekend for me because it's the first time that Memorial Day weekend I think I actually stayed home from a race. But, you know, watching it on TV live, you know, watching first and foremost, you made a good point, Harold Adams, is Austin Tunney. listening to Austin Tunney's post-race interview, very excited because he finished second because, with the blown engines and all of that stuff for Eric Hester and that team, Southern Indiana Barnes team, he had not been finishing where he wanted to because he's been out of action. Let's be honest. He wanted to compete at the Sportstrom Speedway, did not get to come because of the engine. Talked to Eric Hester about that. He goes, if we had about 2 more days or maybe an extra day, we may be able to have that number 7 out there. But another thing I want to talk about here is our rookies. And 2 guys that stand out to me, and I'm going to tell you now, Jacob Robertson and Lavin Crane. Robbie Greenwell, of course, great to see him back out there. But these 2 guys, Jacob and Lavin, the first time they have ever seen Indianapolis Speedrome as far as racing an outlaw on that racetrack. I believe Jacob came home and got a top 10, and then you look at Lavin. He was cutting the X like a pro out there. I mean, unfortunate circumstances. Christopher Gray got out of his car after that intersection collision with Lavin and fist bumped. Showing his respect. It's just a racing deal. It's figure 8 racing. But Dalton, I'll throw it to you first before we go to Harold because Harold knows these 2 gentlemen. But what did you make of Jacob and Lavin Crane out there acting like pros?
That's exactly what they were acting like, just seasoned veterans, really. Lavin was really good in the race. He really surprised me with how he got through the crossover and traffic and stuff. J-Rob, I think he broke a little bit early, like a lower A-frame or something, lower control arm, something. But they got it fixed quick and got him back out there. That's what he needed, to get back out there and just complete the race, run laps, as many laps as he possibly could and complete the race. And I'm telling you, J-Rob's 1 lap speed in qualifying practice. I looked up on the board as I'm running laps, and I see the 91 sitting up in P2 or something in practice. And I was like, damn, J-Rob, getting on it. So they really surprised me. They really did good.
Yeah, no doubt. So, that's one thing about it that we're going to talk about as we get further and further along. But, man, what a race by those rookies. And then, of course, talking about it, I'll let you give your 2 cents, Harold Adams, about how good those 2 rookies did.
Oh, man, I tell you, Jacob and Lavin, 2 guys from, our area down south, if you will. It was really great to see them out there for the first time at the Speedrome in their Outlaws. And it was great to see them do well. I mean, they just looked like they fit, like they had been out there many a times. Of course, Jacob has been in his Ford. And Lavin, I think, a couple times in front-wheel drive, and that's it. But, I mean, they looked like they belonged. They did really good, and I was really proud of them. And it's just a tough break for Lavin there. What was it, like 8 minutes or so to go when he had that big wreck. So, tough break there. But I think, it's in his blood for sure, and he looked great.
A real quick fact here, and this is an interesting stat, and Stott and I have talked about this. In the 90-minute, we've seen many intersection collisions, but did you know that last year during the 3-hour, there were no intersection collisions? Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That just shows you how, talented and how great those guys are at figure 8 and what they do,
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. And, Dalton, we got a big one coming up. This was a kind of a test, if you will. We got a big one. That's the 3-hour coming up September 12th, I believe it is. And Dalton, I know, do you ever learn something? We talked about this last week, but do you really ever learn something about your car going to the 3-hour?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, you're always learning like how it handles with different. Every car handles different every single day. I mean, just the temperature, track. There's so many variables that just change the whole outcome of a race, the handling of the car. So you learn. What I think helps is just learning racecraft, getting to the end of it. No matter if your car is good, bad, no matter what, just survive, get to the end. And I always say if you can survive the big races and just finish, you're always going to have a decent finish because a lot of cars can't survive. Exhibit A, me. I did not survive all the way to the end, and I didn't have a good finish for that outcome. But if you can survive and get to the end, I always think that you'll have a pretty decent finish.
Well, all jokes aside, we're glad you're okay. We saw that on the broadcast, and your head kind of went down a little bit knocked out there. Got your bell rung, as they say, but we're glad you were okay. The car can be fixed. You, of course, not. But, man, what a great weekend it was. And, Harold Adams, there was much more action. What about the Mini Outlaws? I think they said on the broadcast that was one of the biggest groups of figure 8 cars that started a race, 21 cars.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they just keep on growing and keep putting on good races. We just talked about them last week when they were down at Sportsdrome. They had one of their most exciting races, and those guys are really starting to get themselves recognized in the figure eight world and in the oval too.
Yeah, it's been great. Also, the Ford ovals were on, or excuse me, Ford figure eight was in action, and then of course the big one that was the Shelbyville Auto Parts Street Stocks in the figure eight. So Larry Hahn won that one. I believe Phipps from Mount Lawn area won the figure eight of the Fords, and of course Garrett Fox and the Mini Outlaws. So. Great weekend of racing at the Indianapolis Speedrome, and we'll talk about the upcoming towards the end of the show of this weekend, what we got going on. But Harold Adams, your turn to pick the topic of the week this week. We'll go on into that.
All right, let's kind of go back to what we were just kind of talking about with Dalton. About, I guess you could say, a little bit of safety issues or race calls. I know we've talked about cautions. When do you throw a caution, when do you throw a red, or just keep it green, whatever. But there was a lot of talk, and I know we haven't even mentioned this yet with Dalton, but there was a lot of talk. I heard people saying, why didn't they stop? Why did they not throw a caution there because the car was stalled? Why did they not throw the caution? Now, I know they do lazy cautions up there, which we like. I mean, as a fan, you kind of like to see the action go. And they've always been like it the last few years, the speedrome cautions, as they kind of call it up there. So it's like, sometimes it's a tough call, but I was kind of backing him on this one because it's like, it wasn't like he just sat there because he actually first stalled it out at the intersection. Then he kind of got it going and lunged forward a little bit, coasted a little bit, stalled it again. Then he got going again. So it was like, okay, he's going to get going. Well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, maybe he isn't, maybe he isn't. And then all of a sudden, here comes Dalton along. So it was like, they were trying to give him a chance because he was actually moving, but everybody was jumping on the officials for saying, why did they not, throw the caution there? But I thought it was a deal where, because they do the lazy cautions, it was one where they were waiting it out because he looked like he was going to get going. So, I mean, Dalton, were you, any of your pit crew or family or anything kind of hollering about that, or did you even realize what was going on there?
No, I knew, and I saw some Facebook comments and stuff bashing the chief steward of the track, whoever's making that the call for the caution. And I'll play devil's advocate. I agree with what you said, 100% for sure. He was moving, and I agree with give him a chance to get out of the way. So I agree with that. Now I'll just play the devil's advocate here too. In my opinion, as a racer, watching the race back from the Speedrome TV angle, with me knowing how the cars work, how the transmissions work, all that stuff, in my eyes, like I already said prior to this, I thought he was already going to be cleared out moving because I saw the car bump forward as I was driving by. So I thought he was moving.
Yep.
Now, watching it on Speedrome TV, obviously, no matter what, there's going to be a different opinion, different angle. But watching it on Speedrome TV, the movement of his car, it looked like it was just he was bumping the switch to try and fire it up, but the car was in a high gear. It was stuck in high gear. So when you fire with these Burt transmissions, the just low and high direct drive, his car was obviously stuck in high because he stalled it right in the middle of the crossover. So it must have been jammed trying to get into neutral or low. So the only time these cars lunge forward when you bump the starter is when it's in high with a Burt transmission. So it must have been stuck in high, and he was just bumping. So in my opinion, I think they probably, obviously I'm going to say this because I smoked them, but I think they should have called the caution a little bit sooner just because with like the Matt Johnson deal. Matt Johnson, I think he blew a right rear tire, cut a right rear tire down going into 3 early in the race, like super early, and they let him sit broadside driver's door to the field going into 3. And They like you said, they're known for lazy cautions up there. They are. That's literally Speedrome cautions. That's a Speedrome caution in my eyes is a lazy caution. They want to throw the caution, but they're going to give every chance to get out of there. So watching it from the Speedrome TV angle, I think they probably should have thrown a caution a couple seconds. Really, I mean, it would have been a close call. no matter what. It was within a 10-second range of throwing the caution in my eyes. But if I'm the one making that caution call, I know anything about racing, I see that his car's stuck in high gear and he's just bumping the starter forward to lunge the car just to get out of the middle of the crossover. Now, also, I haven't gone to Speedrome many years. I've been going for 10 years now, so a little bit. But every single time a car is installed in the crossover, driver's door to the field oncoming, it's an automatic caution, like automatic red flag on a normal, just so you don't want to see somebody drive wide open into a driver's door. That's the last thing you want to see happen. So it's always been a thing, in my opinion, to where if the driver's door is exposed to oncoming traffic, it's an instant caution no matter what. But for this instance, I could see it going both ways. I see why they didn't throw the caution, because they saw his car moving. But in my opinion, with me knowing how the cars work, that was just his last-ditch effort trying to get his driver's door out of the direct center of the crossover. So he was just bumping the starter, trying to at least get it to move a little bit. So I'll pass it to you, Will, or Harold.
Hold on, just Will. I just want to say, a lot of times people are like have 20/20, hindsight vision, because it's like, in this case, a lot of people are like, well, why didn't they throw it? Now, if he'd have took off just as they threw it, guess what people would have said? Oh, well, why did they throw the yellow? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, you damned if you are, damned if you don't.
It is a double-edged sword for sure.
Well, first and foremost, someone could shit a gold egg and someone would be pissed it's not silver. Okay? Yes, you're not going to make everyone happy, and that's part of it, So first and foremost, on the Speedrome stuff, #tradition, right? This is an endurance-style race. This is a 90 minutes endurance race. It is an endurance race. I can't say that enough. There's going to be lazy cautions. Here's something to think about. Yes, Speedrome has a lazy caution, but this was an actual enduro race. It was a 90-minute time race. So, in my opinion, you shouldn't even throw the yellow flag more if you have a spin out. Now, if you're in the crossover, yes, 100% throw the red flag. But here's the thing about it. The drivers know what they're getting into. They know the rules. They know how to, navigate through there. Whether you throw the caution or you don't, well, I should say, whether you throw the red flag or you don't, that's up to the jurisdiction of the scoring and time and race director. But a lot of guys, time and time again, love playing that game, right? So you're going to sit there and stall. Are you really stalled? I don't know, right? So we've seen it time and time again. It doesn't even have to be an endurance race. We've seen that in regular racing time and time again in many feature races across short tracks all across the country. But that's just part of it. Again, this is the double-edged sword. You're not going to make everyone happy. There's not a 100% be-all, end-all, fix-all. There's just not for this. But it's the way Speedrome has done it. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know what we're talking about, the Indianapolis Speedrome goes on what they call race under yellow flag conditions. You're like, what? What, race under yellow flag conditions? Yes, they race under yellow flag conditions. The only way to stop the race is throw the red flag, and they'll have to restack them, regroup, and that is starting the lineup over again and all of that fun stuff. But, Dalton, that's one thing about it. This, I'll give it to you for your opinion. This was an endurance-style race. This is a 90-minute timed race, so enduro rules do apply. Now, that's added on top of the yellow flag at Speedrome.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I would just wanted to play the devil's advocate.
No, you're good.
But no, I agree with both of you. I completely understand why they didn't throw it. I mean, because if I was in the situation like leading the race or something, I wouldn't want that caution to be thrown with costing me the track position or whatever the case may be. So I completely understand why they didn't. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's my own dumbass fault that I hit them.
Well, I mean, no, you're not a dumbass. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Well, no one else hit him but Dalton, so.
Well, Harold Adams, I guess, is calling you that. So there you go.
Well, that's a fair point. I'll take that one on the chin. It's okay.
As long as you don't hit you in the neck, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But, that's it. Guys, we talk about that. And that's just the thing. When I first started going to Speedrome in 2014 as a fan, I did not know what the yellow flag was for. Like, I'm thinking yellow flag, okay, they're going to stop the race, they're going to restack them. Well, they're still racing out there. I'm like, what in the hell's going on? Is nobody listening to the red flag or the flagman? But yeah, that's just how they've been for years. You know, Speedrome opened in 1941, the longest running figure eight track out there, and they've just kind of went by the endurance style rules. I mean, it's an endurance style racetrack in every race. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Now, I'm not going to say every race because you got the Legend Series, which is now on the INEX point system. They're not going to kind of let that go, if you will. But I know, Harold Adams, you kind of love that style of racing because as a fan, you're wanting the action to continue.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it doesn't drag down the night all the time because, like, sometimes we've been to other tracks. And,
oh, yes.
Well, especially, I'm going to go ahead and say it, dirt tracks, right?
Sure.
They're kind of known for their cautions. As soon as someone spins, they're going to throw it no matter what. Except for Crown Vics. Now, I'll give them that. They're letting the Crown Vics have some lazy cautions here lately. But, you know, as a kid, growing up, you know, they didn't have cautions. It was either green or red, and they let everything go. But, you know, that was back in the day when, you know, safety wasn't as number one as it is now, you know.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, and that was a great topic of the week. You know, we talk about dirt tracks, and you know now, well, how do you decrease the time that we are spent under yellow flags? Well, the dirt track world has come up with the 2-spin rule. So basically, if the same car is spun out 2 times, the same car by himself, he is automatically DQ'd from that race, whether it be a heat race, B main, or a feature race. So there you go. So how do we fix the caution flags? We take the problem out. And there have been some that have spun out multiple times by themselves, and that's just no fault of their own, just maybe be inexperienced, or they just can't drive. So, you know, one of the two. But, man, I tell you what, great topic of the week, but I want to talk about something else that I'm fired up about. And you brought up a good time for talk about dirt tracks. The Thunder Valley Resurgence in Salem Speedway, the Thunder Valley Raceway, the dirt track that is resurged by Brent and Melissa and Salem and all of us. I know I'm going to be the announcer there for the 2026 season. We're looking at about 10 to 11 races. We thought it was going to be a one-off. This is going to be about 10 to 11 races coming up June the 26th. We kick it off that Friday night. That's going to be basically your main divisions of Pure Stocks, Hornets, and Crown Vics. It's going to be a big night of racing, but man, I tell you what, people are fired up, Harold Adams, at this resurgence of this dirt track.
Yeah, a lot of people like Thunder Valley. I like it too. The few times I've been up there, it's a little bull ring, as you like to call it. I mean, it really is a bull ring, and it's got a lot of character to it, a lot of history there in the old fairgrounds, Washington County Fairgrounds. So it's good that they're reviving it and giving it another chance. Yeah,
no doubt, and we're very excited for that. Dirt tracks have been, something that people either like, they don't like. Asphalt racing, something they don't like, they do like. But man, Thunder Valley, if you're ready to go to a 5th mile beating and banging, perfect seat, perfect view of the track to be up close and personal with everything that's going on, it's going to be a good night. And I will say this, not only on June 26th, you're also going to have the TQ All-Star Midgets there as well, and you're also going to have a newer division of midgets as well. So I forgot about that. 2 more classes added. So 5 classes on opening night. Now, there is a curfew, so we're not going to be there all night. I think it's 11 or 11:30. We're going to start at 7 or 7:30. So 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, about 3.5 hour show. Going to be a great time. Make sure you come on out. Kevin Bear, he has worked with me. I hired him at the Circle City Raceway. He's going to be the race director there. Taylor in the booth for scoring and timing. We have the fire department from the city that's going to do the safety. I'm, of course, going to be in the press box announcing and doing what I love to do. And Josh Turner will be in the flag stand. So that'll be fun as well to see him back. So going to be great on June the 26th. Make sure you keep up with all of the action at Thunder Valley Raceway on social media. But we're going to take our first break here today on the show. We'll thank our marketing partners. We'll be back with the Wild Wheel Throwdown, Part 3, when we continue. Race fans, in 2026, we can't thank our marketing partners enough for what they do for our show. We could not do what we do if it wasn't for our great marketing partners in 2026. Shears Drain Cleaning, Polk Brothers Racing, S&R Towing, John McLaren Motorsports, the Sportsdrome Speedway, Derby City Recycling, the Indianapolis Speedrome, Circle City Raceway, Smile Center, Marshall Jaggers Racing, Forklift Rescue, Shane Wilson Lawn Care, Kentucky Clutch and Performance, Roosters of Clarksville, Diesel Boys LLC, Elite Outdoor Services, Kentuckiana Kart Racing, El Tarasco of Shepherdsville, Kentucky, KJ Enterprises, SS Fabrication and Race Cars, Victory Lane Frenchies, the Salem Speedway, Code 3 Roofing, LaFever's Curbing, Oink Incorporated, Hadley Towing and Recovery, Clapp Mowing and Landscaping, and Flag to Flag Media. And of course, our military organization, Indy Warrior Partnership. 2026 would not be the same without these exceptional marketing partners. Now back to the Wild Will Throwdown. Race fans, if you're looking for all dirt racing all the time, check out our friends at Flag to Flag Media. Every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., join Matt Lamar and his group for local regional results and dirt track news. Just go to Facebook or YouTube and search Flag to Flag. That is Flag, the number 2, Flag Media on Facebook and YouTube. Check them out now. And welcome back to the Wild Will Throwdown, season number 5, partnering with Indy Warrior Partnership. My name is Will Greenwell, and what a great part 1 to the show we had today, talking about Topic of the Week and the recap from the Indianapolis Speedrome. Now we're going to talk, gentlemen, about the upcoming schedule this weekend. Back in action, not the bounce houses that the Sportstrom Speedway had, but we are back in action on Saturday night. That's going to be a great night. KKR on Friday night, the Kentuckiana Kart Racing. But Harold Adams, we got a big one. It is the Ford 50 Lapper Figure 8, Ford Future Star, Smack Talkers, Powder Puff, and I'm telling you, with the dry weather expected and the beautiful 70-degree weather, how crazy is bus night going to be?
Yeah, they always get a nice crowd no matter what, but when the weather's perfect like this, and this is the first bus race of the year, it seems like bigger crowd comes out for the first one because everybody's ready for it. And I expect a huge crowd, so it'll be a good show.
Yeah, no doubt. When Sportstrom Speedway puts on the bus shows, they are the best in the nation. You can always expect some wild crash in the intersection. So that happens this Saturday night. Make sure you're there. And the Indianapolis Speedrome also kind of having the same kind of deal. They're having a Night of Destruction kind of get, and that is the Grocery Getter Flagpole race, trailer race. They're also going to have the school bus figure 8 races, the Grocery Getter drag racing, school bus rides, junior fast carts, senior fast carts, and Ford Young Guns. They also pull out a big deal. And Dalton, you know this more than anybody. Those junior fast carts, senior fast carts, and Ford Young Guns, they will probably more than likely be performing in front of a full crowd.
Oh yeah, I guarantee it. People love going to those demo derby nights or Night of Destruction stuff. They pack the stands for sure. No matter where you are, any track, I feel like they just get a full crowd.
So then, Harold Adams, here's something that's big and shocking for one track, and that is Mount Lawn Speedway. They are actually getting set for their season opener this Saturday night because Mother Nature has not been kind to that racetrack.
Yeah, that's crazy to think, but I mean, we got all this rain and everything, and we know how saturated the pits can be up there and the track too. But it's a real shame, I know a lot of guys are talking about it and complaining, but, what can you do about Mother Nature? But it looks like they'll probably get it in this weekend, so maybe they'll get on a roll and get a bunch of races in a row. Yeah,
no doubt. Of course, they're going to have the modifieds. That's their staple there. 2 classes of front-wheel drives and Crown Vics, I believe. So that's going to be a great weekend at the Mount Lawn Speedway. If you've never been there, very odd track. I love it to death. I think it's one of my favorite short tracks, but make sure you check them out. Plymouth Motor Speedway in Plymouth, Indiana, the Michiana. Did I say that right? Is that Michiana? Dalton, do you know that? You're closer to Michigan than I am.
It sounds right. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another way to pronounce it.
Well, I don't want to call them Michiganders, but I think it's the Michiana Vintage Racers Club. But the Outlaw Late Models,
we'll go with that.
Yeah, thank you. Street stocks, factory Fords, 4-cylinders, and Hornets. And you know what the Michiana Vintage Racers are, Harold Adams. We saw them at South Bend, and they had a lot of midget cars.
Yeah, they did. They had a lot of them, so that's really cool to see. So it's cool that they're still doing that stuff.
Then, of course, Salem Speedway. We are in action this Sunday afternoon, May the 31st. It's the legendary karting debut. I know all of the staff will be there. Harold, I'm sure you'll be there maybe taking pictures. I know that was requested. I know Dakota and Karen, they are going to work there that day. Glenn Lunkett's going to be on the race directing. I'll be in the press box. So going to be a good turnout Sunday afternoon for a beautiful day of racing. The Ohio Valley Dragway, if you're into the straight line racing, Saturday afternoon, going to be bracket racing at the Ohio Valley Dragway. If you're wondering where that is located, basically it's on West Point, Kentucky, just south of Louisville. Dirt tracks, a lot of dirt tracks plan on racing this week, and I'm telling you what, it is a good weekend for dirt tracks around here. Looks to be dry. Lake Cumberland Speedway going to have the monster trucks plus tough truck competition. Also, you're going to have the Richmond Raceway. They're going to be having the Saturday Night Fan Appreciation. That's going to be a big one. The SCDRA Sport Compacts, Pro Late Models, Modifieds, Crown Vics, and 400 to win for those Crown Vics as well. Also in action, going to have the Brownstown Speedway. This is a big one. The Saturday is going to be the Hoosier Dirt Classic for the Northern All-Star Super Late Models. The Northern All-Star Modifieds and the Pure Stocks and Hornets will be on the card as well. Paragon Speedway is going to have the 410 Sprint Cars, Super Stocks, Bombers, and Hornets. Now, also, I'm looking at this one here, and this is something, Harold, I told you about, and I know Dalton will be there live helping Jack Dawsey III, but the Bloomington Speedway, celebrating over 100 years, the inaugural Don Hobbs Classic, 10,000 to win for the Northern All-Star Super Late Models, and James Essex and the gang usually have about 30 to 35 Super Late Models, plus my buddy Kevin Bear going to have his Lightning Sprints there and Super Stocks. So, Dalton, I know you're excited to head over to Bloomington Speedway.
Yeah, I think I've been there. That was actually the first dirt track I ever went to. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10, with my grandparents. And yeah, we watched a bunch of sprint car races and stuff. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was my first ever dirt track I ever went to.
Well, that's awesome. You know, Harold Adams and I, when we went up there for our first time, I'll let Harold talk about it. There was different things about racetracks that we kind of look for when we're first-time visitors. And Harold Adams, I tell you what, that track did not disappoint.
No, not at all. And I mean, the thing that I always just is crazy about is the infield, the grass area in the infield. I mean, usually you think of dirt tracks, usually the infield's all muddy and, you know, kind of slummy looking, you know, really mean just, but this track, man, it looks immaculate in the infield. It looks like, you know, like they have really taken good care of it. I mean, it's green grass, everything. So Dalton, you have to let us know if that's still pretty. I mean, it's like one of the prettiest tracks I've ever seen, for real.
Yeah, I'll give you an update next week.
There we go. Dalton's update. But you know what? You're right. I mean, the track is nestled inside of a valley or kind of like the woods all around. You have the grandstands up on the side of the hill where you can bring your camping chair. I've always loved that because, you know, you're more comfortable. You're excited, kind of like Rock Castle or Ponderosa on the top row. You can bring your camping chair.
It seemed like almost everybody had lawn chairs, sitting in lawn chairs, I was just freaking out about that. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know, everyone, the platform is like seating, like it's a tiered down, but it's wide enough that you can have your lawn chair on every row and not be in the way of the view of the person behind you. So it's an absolutely stellar track. Their food is wonderful. The entry is beautiful. It's nestled back in a beautiful area. So make sure you check that out. I mean, that's going to be a good one this week. But, you know, a lot of people don't know something that's going on in Evansville this weekend, believe it or not. And it's a big deal for truck and tractor pulling. It is the Busch Light Nationals. And when I talk about this, it's the NTPA. It's the biggest you can go on tractor pulling. They're going to have the 4-engine tractors, the modifieds, the modified 2-wheel drive trucks, the super stock tractors. That is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Vandenberg Fairgrounds down in Evansville. So that's a huge deal for them down there to have that big truck and tractor pulling, of course, labeled the Busch Light National. So that's going to be a big one. And it's so big that they're actually having 2 tracks. When one's pulling on one track, they're getting ready for the second track. When one's on the second track, they're pulling on the third or the other track. So it keeps the action moving along. So that's going to be a big deal down there. I'm interested to see how that turns out. But gentlemen, that is the upcoming schedule. We're going to, before we end today, we got the question of the week. I'm going to start instituting a question of the week. We kind of looked and searched for those questions. But the question is, what type of track do you prefer the best? And this could be the 3/8, this could be the half mile, this could be the quarter, this could be a short bull ring. Now, this is not what you think. It's not what you like to go watch, but Hawk Harold Adams to take picks at, Dalton Connor to compete at, or Will to announce at. So Harold Adams, I'll let you go first on what style of track do you like taking pictures the most?
Well, I mean, I have to kind of favor a Sportstrom type of quarter mile with the figure 8. And, you know, most photographers anyway, too, looking at that vantage point, will always kind of tend to go to asphalt as far as that goes because of the dirty equipment. You know, I mean, the dirt and the dust and the mud it flings up, it can sometimes get to your equipment, camera equipment. So that's one thing right there. It's a little cleaner, but you know, I've been around the asphalt all my life, a quarter mile. So that's just something that, you know, as long as you can get some good vantage points around, you know, any track like that is good for me. But there are a few tracks, not very many, where you just don't get those good vantage points, and the sight lines are not good and stuff. So, you know, as long as you get some good sight lines and you can get up close to the action too, I'm good for that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Dalton, what about you on competing at? I mean, what do you like? The high speed tracks, the slightly banked tracks, the big bank tracks, or what do you prefer?
Anything high banked. Literally, I'm talking Anderson, Salem, Winchester. Honestly, my two favorite tracks probably to compete at are Winchester, number one, and Anderson, just because I've ran there the most, Anderson-wise. But you can't beat a half-mile high-bank track like Winchester and Salem. You just can't beat it. And when I ran Bristol, that track is the smoothest. It's weird because usually you pull out onto a racetrack, your head's bouncing between your seat because of the bumps and cracks and all that stuff. But Bristol is literally as smooth as glass. It's the weirdest feeling ever in a race car. So anything high banked for me, I'm in.
No, that's awesome. And announcing, you know, I've announced it a little bit of everything, including the over half miles, the 33-degree banking. You know, I've announced bull rings, dirt tracks, fifth miles, quarter miles, 3/8 miles, little over half mile. But, you know, one of my biggest things is bull rings. I love calling races at bull rings. Why? Because it gives you every little storyline possible. You have the beating, you have the banging, you have the drama, you have the fights, you have the sights, you have the sounds. You can be up close to everything. It's just the perfect storm of a racetrack. Now, does that mean I hate calling races at Salem? Absolutely not. Now, the inner track's a little hard to call at Salem because you're so far away. But I'm telling you, one of my favorite tracks to call races at is a bull ring. Bull rings are very fun. You can see the audience. They always get into it. They're up close and personal. You have people up on the fence, which you're not supposed to be, but that just shows you how passionate one is and everything that goes on. And Dalton, I don't know about you, but as long as I'm not in it, I enjoy a little brawl every now and then.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I hated the way my race ended this weekend, but the outcome of it in the pits after was well worth the wait.
No doubt. And I got to sit on my couch, and that's what sucks about that. I didn't get to be involved in all of that fun stuff, but man, it's a great time. But man, we got a great show today we had, and coming up next, the weekend, it's going to be beautiful around here in the region. I don't know where you are out there listening, whether you're in Florida, hopefully it's good weather, Washington State, whether you're in New York, Ohio, Michigan, wherever you're racing at this weekend, please be safe. But it's going to be a great weekend for us here in the region. With Dalton going to Bloomington on Friday, Harold Adams and myself will be at KKR on Friday and Sportsdrome on Saturday. It's going to be a great weekend of action. As always, I want to thank the co-host of the show, Dalton Connor and Harold Adams, for making the show great as always. I want to thank the drivers and crews for their input and our marketing partners. Without them, we could not do what we do here on the show. And of course, the great fans. If it wasn't for the fans buying the merchandise and listening to our show each and every week, we would not have a podcast here. Well, as far as I'm concerned, my name is Will Greenwell, and we will see you around the turn.